So I assume that we are live currently, most likely. Okay, we are live. Let's go. So we've studied thousands, more even, tens of thousands of collectors over the last couple of years, and these are the findings. You will understand what art is selling. You will understand what art to make. You will understand where to find those collectors so that you can actually sell to them and make money. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dries. I've exhibited throughout the world with groundbreaking art. In one series, I've painted with lightning, 50,000 volts of static electricity. I've won awards. I've been in this game for a very, very long time. Now, this video is going to be slightly boring. This is going to be a video with an autistic level of detail. But on the bright side, if you execute on all of these things, you will in fact make lots and lots of money. So let's go to the collector research and let's just do this over here. Bum, 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 bum. And here we have the first section. Let me quickly also check if we are in fact live. I think we are live, right? Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, we'll probably be live anyway. So first thing, this is very, very important. Where do we find collectors? What are the collectors currently buying? Who are these collectors? Because if you understand collectors, you will in fact win the game. Whoever understands collectors best wins. That is the rule. That's the only game that anyone in the art world is playing. And so what do we see here? We see that 71% of collectors are collecting to decorate their home. 50% of collectors are collecting to support artists or institutions. Support. They want to feel like they are beneficial to society, that they are helping society. So this is very, very powerful. Let's analyze this for a moment. 71% of collectors that are searching for art in their home. Who are these people? These are first home buyers. These are second home buyers. They are, for the first time, decorating their home in a way that they want to express themselves and live in that particular scenario. And so how are you going to target these people? How are you going to position yourself? What are you going to say as an artist to resonate with these types of people? Well, you will obviously want to, if you're making content online, for example, you want to bring that into your content. You want to talk about decorating your home. You want to talk about interior. You don't have to make a video that is titled interior stuff and go in that niche, but you want to bring a portion of that into the content that you make so that those people here can learn from you. And when they learn from you, you build a relationship with them. And when they have a relationship with you and they're thinking about buying art, because here's the thing, a person doesn't go from not being interested in decorating their home to buying a property and decorating their home in a week. This is obviously something that happens over the course of 2-3 years. And so they're already watching videos. They're already scrolling before they actually purchase the home and are decorating that home. And so bringing that awareness into your content is going to be very powerful. Now, you could also go all the way extreme. I have here a particular thing. I typed into TikTok, for example, real estate. And what videos do you have nowadays? You've probably seen them, like for example, this one over here, this middle one. This is just a guy that walks through a home, a particular tour. Nothing is happening. Somebody is recording, the guy is walking through a home, you can see some of the home. This is happening with luxury homes, this is also happening with regular homes. And these videos are getting tens of thousands of views, sometimes hundreds, sometimes even millions of views. Extremely easy to make. If you as an artist, this type of content has nothing to do with art. Artists are not making this type of content, but if you as an artist would, for example, make 300 videos for free for real estate people, where you go and you do the same thing, then after 300 videos, you will have a couple of videos that reach hundreds of thousands of views, and you will have built 10K followers, 20K followers, and now your page becomes very valuable. Now, after doing it for free, you can go to the same real estate people and you can say, hey, look at my page, I have this. I can go and make videos for you for free. If you have one purchase, only one purchase, you will already have 8% as a real estate guy that you will gain from that purchase. At a 200K home, 300K home, that's a lot of money. And they only need one buyer. And so they see that as a very, very valuable thing that artists then can provide. And what do you get in exchange? What do you say to them? You say, hey, in exchange, and we've seen some of the houses being sold because of my videos. In exchange, I want to hang my art there. In exchange, you can show that art to those first home buyers. And if they happen to also want to buy the 5 pieces with the home, you get 30% on that. And so this is all value for those real estate people. And this is a way to position yourself. This is another way that you as an artist can, in fact, position yourself and capture those people that are trying to decorate their home. Now, before we go to the next one, I want to quickly check if I'm actually live because I'm not sure if I am. Okay, we are live. Okay, now I'm a little bit more confident. Okay, let's go. So, second thing, 90% of new generation of art collectors don't believe the art world is welcoming or inclusive. Very interesting. They are thinking that the art world is elitist. They are thinking that the art world is pretentious. They are thinking that the art world is intimidating. That's very interesting. Intimidating. So how are you going to position yourself? Can you make content in line with that? Probably not. But can you be aware of this emotion and then play on this emotion massively? Yes, you can. If you, for example, sell art, what you want to do afterwards is understand that all of the gallerists are very elitist and pretentious, that all of the museum curators and all of those people are very high level, high up there. And so what you then say to the collector is, hey, if you want more information, please reach out. If you want to have information about which museums you could go into and connect with people and all of that stuff, please talk to me. I know the landscape. I've been in the landscape for 10 years. If you're a little bit insecure about framing or hanging or anything, please talk to me. Please talk to me. I'm helping collectors all of the time with this, and you do that for free of charge. And if you position yourself as an extremely friendly source, that extremely friendly person that they feel is open, that they feel is going to help them, then something strange is going to happen. They will have the desire to learn more about the art world. They feel, again here, they feel not welcoming. And with that desire, they will sometimes buy your art simply because they know that when they do, they interact with you and they learn more about that whole space. And for a lot of them, an artwork that's $1,000 is a very cheap price point, or $2,000 is a very cheap price point to get free information. So being aware of that and then positioning your personality in a way that after the purchase makes you the best experience is going to be very, very powerful. Okay, now the third one that I want to show you, and after this we will dive into the actual collector report where it becomes more and more boring, but I've prepared some amazing stuff for you guys. It's going to be absolutely powerful. So what was the one? Yeah, I think this was the one that I wanted to talk about. Here. How do you keep up with the art world? They asked collectors. Again, thousands of collectors. How do you keep up with the art world? 74% said galleries and museums. 74% said Instagram. 54% said newsletter. Put in the chat or the comments if you have a newsletter and you actually use that and you actually send out information. You actually keep the people up to date, your perspective on the art world. How many people are doing that? How many artists are doing that? 1 out of 800. The artists always come to me and they say, well, Dries, it's so saturated. There are so many artists. No, they're not. There are so many artists who are lazy. There are so many artists who don't do shit. There are so many artists who are failing because they're not even trying. But there are not a lot of artists who are actually having a newsletter that is beneficial for those who want to keep up with the art world. And so if you have an Instagram here and you're making content to keep up with the art world here and there, and you drive to your newsletter, then you're already capturing the largest percentage of that. And here's the thing, look, this is so amazing. What I would recommend artists to do is to subscribe to the newsletters of Sotheby's, of Christie's, of all of those superstardoms. And you know what you will see? Their newsletter sucks balls. It's not good. It's not good. It's constantly selling. It's not providing any value. It's not providing any insights. It's a really bad newsletter. It's not good. These top institutions don't have good newsletters. And so if you're an artist, these are massive opportunities, even in an AI world, even when AI is killing it. You know, this is just massive. These are the opportunities, but you have to start pouring into that time, effort, resources, all of that stuff. Okay, more than magazines. Look at this. Art magazines and publications, less than email newsletters, less than Instagram. On top of that, by the way, email newsletters, that's the most lucrative channel that you can create for yourself. And so, did I want to cover one more thing here? I don't think so, no. Let's go to the collector reports. Now it becomes more and more boring, but this is the real gems, you know, the real gems can be found here. So what do we have? 3 and 4 new gen collectors are looking for prints. Across the board, prints are our most popular medium. More than 75% of our community tell us they're interested in prints when they sign up. 75%. Why is that? These collectors want to become familiar with the art world. They want to become familiar with collecting. They want to become familiar with this whole space. They don't want to spend 10,000 on a particular artwork. So what does this mean for an artist? Well, it means that these collectors first buy prints, then many years later, they buy artworks. And who are the artists that they buy artworks from? The artists that they have experience with the prints. And so what does that mean? It means that if you don't offer prints, then you're not capturing those collectors early in the game. You're not capturing those collectors. And so what you want to do is build a pricing ladder where all the way in the bottom section, you have those prints going. Not to make money. People don't make shitloads of money on prints, but to capture the collector. So that they then afterwards, 3-4 years later, buy original art from you. And so the goal here is not to take a huge margin on those prints. The goal is, for example, to offer prints at $400, $500, $600, depending on size and all sorts of stuff. And then making sure that the experience that they have is the most powerful experience. Way more powerful than with museums, way more powerful than with galleries. The quality of the print is better, the packaging of the print is better, the unboxing experience is better, everything is better with your prints, because you spend a lot of money on those prints, and on top of that, the experience with buying from you is better because you listened to what I said 5 minutes earlier. You understand the pain points, pretentiousness, intimidation, they feel intimidated by the art world, and you, after they bought the prints, you are solving those pain points for them. And so you're investing a lot of time with free advice, with free help, with free everything in that early stage. And now they feel like, wow, buying from this person is so much better. Buying from this person gives me all of these amazing benefits. And then later down the line, when they think about buying a more expensive piece, they want to buy from you because they have that positive relationship with you. That is how you position yourself here. That is how you can carve out a portion of the market and capture those new gen collectors by understanding what they actually need. Have I been talking about composition? No. Have I been talking about colors? No. Have I been talking about style and particular art styles that are more trendy now? No, absolutely not. I have not done that. This is what matters. Okay. Next thing that I pointed out here that is very, very important. I've read this whole document for you, you know. Here we have it. So, median price By the way, put your questions in the chat. I will review the chat later, but there's this delay in the chat. And so oftentimes when you put the question all the way in the end, when I'm answering questions, the questions are not coming in and then I don't see it. And then the live is over and I can't answer your question. So if you have questions, already put it in right now. I will answer those in a couple of minutes. The median price of a collector's first piece, €765. They're not buying original art. Fifth piece, 15 piece too. So it goes up very, very low. These are not insane numbers. And so we see that for new gen collectors now, because one of the big problems in the art world is that it was becoming older and older and older. We only saw old people buying art, and this was a very big problem. And the new gens, they clearly want to start dabbling with less money in the beginning. Okay, so this is the pricing ladder that you have to take in mind. You need to have your originals at, let's say, 4 or 5K in the beginning, 6K, those types of price points. And you need to make sure that your prints with an amazing experience fall underneath 765 by a good margin. We're talking about €500, for example. That's where you want them to be. Okay. So this is very interesting. Art in home trumps investment. So this is already what we covered, but here, this is very interesting. 1 in 2 make a purchase to support artists or institutions. Okay, support artists or institutions. What does that mean? How beyond, we talked about the real estate thing, but what does that mean for support? It means that you want to position yourself all the way in the beginning, when you don't have a lot of followers, when your skill is not that good yet, when you're not that experienced, when you're not an expert yet, you don't feel like a professional, you want to put yourself out there already, because there's a huge portion that wants to purchase to support. They don't want to purchase because of the expert narrative. They want to support. So that language can also slip into your content. If you feel like supporting me in this journey, in this transfer, in this thing that I'm doing, then please go to etc., 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 a call to action. Support is very important. And so this shows us that the fear of coming over like an amateur is not necessary. The fear of coming over like a beginner is not necessary. It's in fact an advantage. It's an advantage that has a financial opportunity connected to it. And the moment you see that financial opportunity, the moment you see that they want to support, is the moment you see that you, in that beginning stage, have a value, an inherent value, because you are a beginner. Damien Hirst cannot really rely on support anymore. And so this is very, very powerful. And all the way in the beginning, artists are too afraid. So the saturation levels are way down because artists don't want to show themselves in the beginning. They don't want to show their sketches. They don't want to show their work in progress. They don't want to show their work that's where they're not certain yet of the work. So that's what I'm trying to tell you here. If you are a beginner, it's not an excuse to not start building that business. Because as a beginner, you have this massive advantage, okay? So, another thing that we have, very important. Why are they buying? New generation are drawn by their admiration for the artist, but not necessarily the most famous ones. And we will talk about that, the most famous ones in a minute. Buying from an artist they admire, an emotional connection. How do you generate emotional connection? How do you generate buying from an artist they admire? How? By making great art, by making great colors, by making like some artwork that looks good, aesthetically pleasing. Sure, there's something about aesthetically pleasing that can be admirational. Emotional connection. What emotional connection? You get those things by telling stories. Storytelling is becoming more important than ever. The world that we're world that we're living in becomes more and more fake. It's one of the reasons why I'm doing more lives, because life is not fake. The world that we're living in becomes more fake with AI, more fake with all of those things. And what's the least fake of them all? It's personal stories. This is how you can connect with the customer. It's true storytelling. It's true creating that emotional bridge. When you look at art collectors and you put their brains under brain scans, and then you let them decide which art to pick and which art to buy and all of that stuff, what we see is that the limbic system fires up first. The limbic system is responsible for emotional processing. And then afterwards, we see the prefrontal cortex fires up and justifies that emotional decision. That's what we're seeing. And so you have to tap into that emotion first and foremost. And the best way to do that is through storytelling. Now, obviously, all of you know that the most handsome, most creative, most powerful, most amazing storyteller in the art space on YouTube would be me. Of course, that's Dries Ketels. So if you want to learn from my storytelling recipe, my framework, you buy the YouTube Millionaire. I explain my whole storytelling formula right there. You don't have to buy from me. You can buy books, you can go on YouTube, you can learn yourself, but you cannot avoid telling stories. That is not possible. You cannot avoid becoming proficient in building emotional connection. Okay, so let's go further. It's a very important aspect here. So, watching an artist's growth is a key draw for new generation collectors. Fame is not important. Here, the new generation are driven by their emotional ties to a piece, and for 2 in 3 people, the story or narrative behind the artwork is one of the major factors driving purchase intent. 2 in 3 people say that story is one of the major drivers. This is massive. This is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. How many artists are good at storytelling? None. It just doesn't happen. Look at the YouTube people. They're not telling stories. They can't tell stories. Look at Instagram. There's no storytelling. You don't remember any of the stories. This is one of the major drivers. Okay? One of the major drivers. Now, they also say that fame is not important. This is not true. I understand that if you look at the stats, if you investigate collectors and you ask them that whether or not they value fame, they will say, no, I don't value fame. Look, if you ask women, do you value money in a guy? They will say, no, it's not that important for me, especially the new age women. But when you look at the stats, 74% of them that file for divorce file right after the guy loses his job. And so money is not important, of course. Of course it is. If you ask me, why do you train? Why do you go and to the gym and train and all of this stuff? I will say to you that it's not because I want to look good. But is that really true? I mean, there's always an element, of course. And so sometimes people don't actually know why they are buying. And so they're saying something, but reality shows us something else. And the reality shows us that people who have 10 followers are not selling art. And so fame is not important is actually not true. What they're saying here is growth is a key draw for new generation collectors. What does that mean? What's the growth that they're talking about? Oh yeah, it's social media growth, of course. It is seeing the artist go from nothing to promising. That's the growth that they're talking about. That's a story as well. Artist comes from nothing, comes from the slums, and then slowly but steadily becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. That's the storyline. That's the narrative that they want to see. Remember? So they want to see that beginner vibe. They want to support that beginner, but not a beginner that's not promising, not a beginner that's not growing, not a beginner that is not going in the direction of becoming famous. And so fame, in fact, is very important. I wrote down here that it's fake. I believe that it's fake. I believe that fame is in fact important, but not being famous already. Becoming famous is important. becoming famous is more important than being famous. That's what we're seeing. And so this is amazing for beginners. How many artists wait because they're afraid that they will get critique, that people will laugh with them, that there will be negative comments underneath their videos, that their family members will see that they are not good enough at making art yet. How many artists wait before they go on YouTube, before they start making content, before they go on Instagram and start making content? How many? A lot. But what we're seeing here is that is a mistake, because collectors want to support artists. They want to see growth and narrative. They want to see the storyline from loser artists to winner artists. And when you postpone going online, you erase that growth trajectory for eternity, because you can't go back in time anymore. Okay? So this is very, very, very important. Let's go to the next one that I wanted to cover. So I'm going through this. I've read all of these documents, and I'm just covering the most important things for you guys. Of course, let me check if there's already some in Instagram. Okay, we will answer some of the questions in a minute. So when we asked our new generation collectors how they keep up to date with the art world, there are two clear front runners: galleries, museums, and Instagram. This is the full thing. We already talked about Instagram newsletters earlier, but here's something I want to talk about. TikTok. TikTok 2%. When gallerists read this, when artists read this, when collectors read this, they all say TikTok is the least promising one of them all. TikTok is the loser one. We should not put any time and effort in TikTok. And the reason they are saying that is because they do not understand the world. They are most of the times just not that smart, if I'm really honest about it. Because TikTok is the ultimate opportunity. Because nobody is watching it. Nobody is paying attention to TikTok. Sorry, 2%. Let me explain you why this is the big opportunity of them all. Okay. You want to identify patterns. Human beings throughout the world have the same psychology. Technology changes, the context change, the countries that win and lose change, but human psychology always remains the same. That's why I read so many psychology books. And what we are seeing in Asia, I went to Thailand recently, what we are seeing in Asia, in China, in all of those places, is that the customer behavior there in terms of technology is far more advanced than in the West. I know what the Americans will say. Most of the audience is American. Oh, China sucks. China is so terrible. Oh my God, China, what fucking losers. This is not true. China, in fact, is ahead of the game when it comes to consumer behavior interacting with technology. And so what we see in China right now will be happening in Europe, in America, in the UK 5 years from now. And what do we see in China? We see that the biggest sales funnels are not landing pages anymore, not newsletters, none of that stuff. It's live shopping. Live shopping massively. This is what's happening in China as we speak with 100% certainty. And when it comes to live shopping, I promise we will get down to TikTok, why TikTok is so important. But when it comes to live shopping, it will be massive for the art world. We know that with certainty. Because who are the biggest sellers in the art world? Sotheby's and Christie's. And how are they selling? With a landing page? No, they're not selling with a landing page. With a solo show? No, they're not selling with a solo show. They are selling with live auctioning. Live auctioning. They're selling live. So we have these two things that combined. China, what is happening there, or Asia in general, it's massive in Thailand, it's massive in all of those places. And then what we see in the art world and have been seeing for the last 200 years is live. Which of the platforms are adapting themselves to live? Is Instagram adapting itself to live shopping? No, it's not. Is email newsletters adapting itself? No, it's not. Is YouTube adapting itself? No, it's not. Is TikTok adapting itself? Well, it already has. It already has adapted itself. It already has live shopping. There's also Whatnot. There's a couple of other platforms, but TikTok has this. And so when this transfer is happening in the next couple of years, the other platforms just simply can't catch it. They can't catch it. And will they catch it? Sure, they will transform, but they will miss out on that first year, 2 year experience. That's why you want to pay attention to TikTok, because nobody else is. And if you will spend a lot of time on TikTok right now, you will not get returns, but you will build an audience, build experience, build a TikTok presence out that you will then be able to leverage 2, 3, 4 years in, when the whole live shopping becomes the #1 way to sell art. Mark my words. Live shopping will be the #1 way to sell art. All of the artists will learn from Sotheby's and Christie's. All gallerists will learn from them as well. Live shopping will be the thing, okay? In the next couple of years, you'll see this whole 2% thing is just a joke. That's to me the biggest joke of them all. I think this was everything that I wanted to cover for this particular live video. So let's go over to some of the questions. And so yeah, I don't have a good way to capture questions yet, so we'll just put it over here. Boom. I do put my art on Instagram, Philosophy Today. Hello, Philosophy Today, Claire Bureau. I send my newsletter out every 2 weeks, but my audience is stagnant. So my audience is stagnant. Your audience is obviously stagnant because there's no new people that are coming in. There are no new people coming in. There are 2 ways to build a newsletter out. One way is to make content online and then drive your audience with a free content towards that newsletter. All of you are aware of that because that's a very famous way. I in fact do that on YouTube. Another way is by investing money. So by investing money, what does that mean? There are platforms out there, email newsletter platforms, where you can put advertisements in your platform, in your newsletter, and then you get money. And then within the platform itself, the email newsletter provider platform, you can market your own newsletter with the money that you gain from the sponsorship that you sold in your newsletter. Let's say you sold a sponsorship for €400 or $400. Then you can take that $400 and you can spend it on getting new subscribers. And you can, for example, do a particular regulation where you say, I'm willing to spend, out of the top of my mind, I'm willing to spend $4 per new subscriber on the requirement that the new subscriber is going to open the first 3 emails. Then it's a valid subscriber, and then only then do I pay the whole thing out. A lot of newsletter things have that feature in it, and then you spend $400. And so you get now 100 subscribers, and then your newsletter grows. And as your newsletter grows, you have sponsorships that you can get more money from. And as you get more money, you can grow the newsletter even more. And as the newsletter grows even more, etc., etc. You get the idea. This is the flywheel. So you can install this flywheel mechanism where the only thing that you do is make great newsletter content, and then the newsletter grows automatically. So there are many ways to make sure that the newsletter grows. Michael Plishka, my primary art is photography. What would you do differently since everyone takes pictures? I'm not painting much anymore. Great question. So what would you do differently as a photographer that wants to presumably sell fine art in a world where everyone is able to take pictures? You have to make sure that you do nothing differently. Everything that I just explained is what you should be doing. This is something that works for visual art. This is also something that works for photography. Now, the photography that you are selling is going to be less functional. Sure, that is absolutely correct. but for the sole reason that a lot of people can take pictures. But it doesn't take away that they cannot take the pictures that you can take. It doesn't take away that they cannot create the scarcity that you can create. It doesn't take away that they cannot build the brand that you can build. It doesn't take away that, etc., etc., etc. And so all of the reasons that people are buying are still in place. A collector that wants to not be intimidated by the art world will still value the photographer that understands that and positions themselves in a very friendly way to help solve those pain points. And how can you, for example, solve those pain points? Well, you can have a small collector community where collectors can meet each other, for example, where beginner collectors can meet each other. I don't know any beginner collector membership type of thing or that's connected to buying your art online. I know a couple in museums, and the museums create those for a reason because it's a very smart thing to do. And so you can copy those museums. And so now you are more than just a photographer. Now you are more than just the same thing that an iPhone or any phone could take. You're more than that because you're positioning yourself in a way that is playing on those pain points. And so that is what I would recommend there. Hilya Trevor. As somebody who really struggles to put almost anything on social media, this all basically tells me that I'm just doomed. Yeah, you have to ask yourself why you are struggling to put things on social media. And then get an honest answer to that. Because if you have an honest answer, you might be able to solve it. Let's say, for example, that you're afraid to put your face on camera. Then you write that in the answer. You're afraid to put face on camera. And then you challenge that thought. So you go and answer the question, why am I afraid? Then you write down all of the answers, and then you challenge all of those answers individually, you yourself. For example, by saying, well, do I need to put my face on camera? Question mark. And lo and behold, you will very quickly come up with the answer, no, I don't. There are a crazy amount of channels that are faceless, that are completely deprived of that personality element. Now, we've also talked about personality and how important that narrative, that storytelling is. And so that's going to be a disadvantage there for sure. But early on, you can just start with a non-face channel. But you have to ask yourself those questions. And you can play around with GPT. You can say GPT, you can, for example, here's what you can do. A day from now, you can copy paste the whole transcript of this entire video. You can paste it in GPT. You can say to GPT, hey, based on this video, I felt that I was doomed. And I felt that I just don't want to put things on social media. I don't want to do that. So can we have a conversation, you and I, GPT, where you challenge me, where we can figure out why I am so afraid of doing that. And so you have your micro therapist, so to speak, and they understand the goal because they have the goal from this video, and then they will help you, ask you questions, you communicate with GPT, and before you know it, an hour later, you make your first video. You literally make your first video. It can be that simple. Verena Venus. I don't have a problem showing my art. However, I never really know what to put on Instagram other than a photograph of a painting. My following is small, so I need to find what the algo likes. Okay, so this is already very good. I need to find what the algo likes. What is the algorithm? It's people. The algorithm tries to find out what people like. That's it. So you don't have to try and figure out what the algorithm likes. You have to try and figure out what people like. People, not algorithms. What do people like? Again, psychology. Technology changes, contexts change, war comes and goes, but human psychology never changes. It has been the same for thousands of years. They were telling stories on a campfire, then they were telling stories in, I don't know, universities, then they were telling stories on Instagram. It's the same thing. It's just storytelling. And so, what content can you make based on the video that you just watched? The whole gallery report thing that we covered. You could make storytelling videos, transformational videos, where you explain stories that go on in your artistic career. These can be very small stories. Very small stories. A story where you, for example, go for a cleanup of the studio. That's a story. There was a normal, namely a messy studio, then something happened, and then there was a new normal, namely a clean studio. That's a story arc. And so you can put that in cleaning up a studio, you can put that in making an artwork, you can put that in going to a particular art fair, going to particular exhibitions, going to a particular museum, all sorts of stuff. Everything that you do as an artist can be a story. And so that is the powerful thing about storytelling. The moment you understand storytelling, everything that you do becomes a source of potential content. Casey Neistat, the famous Casey Neistat, when he was making content, then, yeah, when he was making content, we can actually go to Casey Neistat. He was making, yeah, we're not going to do that. He was making a video a day. One video a day. And all of his videos were stories. You cannot have extremely amazing things that are happening every single day. As a matter of fact, most of the things that were happening were boring as fuck. But if you have storytelling tricks, you make that boring thing into a great story. Everything can be a great story. So that's why I'm so big on storytelling. Again, in the YouTube formula, I go through my whole system, my whole framework of storytelling, of course. But you don't need that. There's a crazy amount of storytelling books for free in the libraries. There's a crazy amount of storytelling videos on YouTube that are very good. So it's all up to you. And so, yeah, that's how I would go about it. Let's do a couple of more questions. Does the report mention where people are actually buying the art, online or in person? Yes, it does. And they just simply buy it everywhere, online as well as in person. And we see a huge increase. I think I even shared a stat on the landing page of the artist formula, a huge increase in more and more purchase online, especially for the new gen, especially for cheaper artworks, but also at the higher end. And so there's definitely a clear transition from offline to online, and has been going on for the last 10 years. But the actual answer is both. Now, all the way in the beginning, you probably want to focus on one. You probably want to focus on nailing art pairs for 2-year periods, or nailing YouTube, or nailing Instagram. I wouldn't go for doing everything, but everything is technically speaking possible. I get way more engagement on TikTok than Insta, 10 to 1 at least. Now, this is very powerful. What I told you, so this is a question from Michael Plishka, I hope I pronounced that correctly, but what I told you is that TikTok at this moment will give you less sales in art because more people are on Instagram. More people are on Instagram. More people get their news and their art information from Instagram. And so the 10 to 1 might actually play out as being equally economically viable at this moment, even though you get 10 times more views on TikTok. Also, the views on TikTok, they don't mean the same thing. If I look at my YouTube shorts, the average watch time for, let's say, a 50-second short becomes at 1,000 views like 30 seconds or 40 seconds. On TikTok, it's gonna be 2 seconds. So that's sure, it's also 1,000 views or 2,000 views or 3,000 views, but it's only 2 seconds. So I think it's a completely different vibe. The views are definitely inflated on TikTok way more than on Instagram. So I would actually think that there's a chance, depending on your stats, that Instagram might actually even work better in terms of sales at this moment. But as I stated, 3-4 years from now, when the first artists grab this whole live shopping opportunity, you can also already start doing that now, but when that really becomes a thing, those artists will be, they will have massive benefits. Massive benefits. If you are an early adopter, it's unbelievable. It's like 50x or 100x the other artists, and in that first 1 or 2 year period, you will be able to make more probably than you made in the last 10 years. And so for sure than in the last 10 years. So that's just the thing. Knowing that TikTok is that long-term game, especially focused on live shopping, I think that's going to be the mindset there. Vera Venus, I have not started TikTok yet. Can I use it like Insta yet? It's very similar. It's kind of the same. You can take your videos, the reels on Instagram, put them on TikTok, and without too much extra work basically. So that's totally possible. Definitely something that you can be doing. Dries, hello. Would you consider eBay live selling? Is it worth trying to sell art there? I'm not familiar with eBay live selling. I'm obviously familiar with eBay, but the live selling aspect, I should take a look into that. But anything that's live selling, live shopping now, is in my opinion the one of the big opportunities that is going to happen in the next couple of years. So if eBay has positioned themselves to capture this whole live selling thing, then that is obviously massive. Well, thanks for all these answers. I mostly meant my comment just as a funny glossary, but that's a really good point. Definitely look more into that, blah, 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 blah. Everything there, and my brain just perceives it all as massive waste of time when there are real things to focus on, blah, blah, blah. Definitely, definitely. So that's another thing. So the whole social media game in the beginning feels like a massive waste of time because it is a massive waste of time. In the beginning, it is a massive waste of time. You are not going to get any results. The sales don't come in year one. You have to play it a little bit on the longer game. I mean, you will get sales in year one, but just not enough. The amount of effort that you put in will be way more than the amount of results that you get. And so if you then compare it to, for example, the 9 to 5 that you might be doing, it's actually going to feel worse. But then 5 years later, it's the best place ever. And so having that long-term mindset is going to be very, 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 very powerful. And so yeah, I think that's kind of how you should think about it. Now, for those of you who want to dive deeper into the whole collector thing, I do have a video. I will link it up in this one that is all about finding which collectors, finding art collectors. I'll link it up in the end screen. And again, if you're interested in any storytelling stuff, the YouTube Millionaire is the course that I've made for that, and obviously the whole YouTube thing. And then we also have the artist formula. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next live, hopefully. Now get the hell out of here.